It is 11th of December 2024, 9:10 a.m. I'll try to make a short, probably won't be short, but a more focused video journal regarding the discourse on the ethics of the United Healthcare CEO shooter. It's very interesting. I'm gonna preface this by saying I don't think I can come to an ethical conclusion. It's way too complicated for me. However, I just want to bring out both sides of the argument that I've heard so far, watching just either YouTube videos that agree with his murder and then Asmongold who doesn't agree with his murder or the murdering. I don't know. So it's not like I'm really properly investigating this, but just putting out my opinion. So the idea is, right, but first I just wanted to use this word, prima facie, of this whole ethics is, okay, murder bad. Shooting someone behind the back, that's bad. Murder is bad. Luigi, was it Mangione or something? He should get sentenced to, first degree murder or something. But then the thing is, okay, murder bad, but in the United States, the healthcare system purposefully denies a lot of claim, which leads to a lot of people not being able to pay for their healthcare, which leads to death. So the idea is someone who is on top of a company that does that and profiting off it and is, you could say almost directly, but at least indirectly, mass murdering people. Those people are denied their healthcare and they die. So then the idea is, okay, Luigi murdered. Oh, I just want to say Luigi. What's his real name? Mangione. Luigi Mangione. Also, I didn't really read. Apparently, there's a manifesto of him, but I didn't read it. But so the question becomes, okay, it's a person murdering a mass murderer, right? So then, isn't that sort of ethical, what he did? But then, once again, this is where kind of Asmon's argument comes in, which I just want to interject here and talk about how I watch his videos because he is a very articulate person, so it's very easy for me to agree or disagree with his points. So that's what I like about his videos, but a lot of times the thing he says just is so I don't want to say unintelligent, but it's filled with fallacies or any background knowledge. I should have looked it up beforehand, but one of the things he does is he reduces the opposing arguments to just like, oh, that's just baby talk, that's just 5-year-old arguments, that's childish. I think the other one is And then whataboutism. Is it what? No, it's not really whataboutism. What ifism. One second. Damn it. I tried to find the name of the ethical concept on ChatGPT, but it didn't help. The idea is, I think it was Kant. He brought about a lot of logic to ethics, right? One of the concept was, can you to sort of decipher if an ethical argument is indeed ethical is to apply it to all the different apply it to different contexts, I think, or sort of. So for example, if stealing is, if you steal, maybe I'm thinking of something. If you steal, then is that ethical? Well, if everyone steals, then no one has ownership, and therefore you can't steal. There was like that sort of logical thinking. But now that I'm saying it, that has nothing to do with my point. So that's a whole chunk of time wasted. But anyways, I'll make a different argument. He does this thing where someone gives an argument and then he extrapolates it, kind of reduces it, and then says, okay, how about applying your ethics in this context? Which really reminds me of when Jeff in Community wins an argument with Annie, and he explains that the person arguing draws a circle, and everything outside of that circle is wrong. So you just kind of play the argument, play the arguer into arguing themselves out, sort of. I literally see that with Asmongold. But what I see is that ethics functions, ethical arguments are supposed to be context specific. You can't just use that same argument in different contexts a lot of times. Although, if you're a universalist, you would disagree. But as a relativist, I'll explain why this doesn't work in ethics. And that's because, for example, you have the trolley problem, right? There's one person and 5 people. You switch to one person because the logic here is it's better to kill 5. It's better to murder one person and save 5 people. Consequentialist. Or I guess utilitarianism. But then let's say, but the one person is a kid and the 5 people are adults. Some people will still say, oh, utilitarianism, consequential. a utilitarianism. But then I think people would have a change of heart. Some people would have a change of heart because there's more weight to killing an innocent child. So then people start to change. In the same context, okay, people say, it's still utilitarianism. Kill 5 people, kill 1 person over 5 people. 5 people are safe. Okay, how about in a hospital? 1 person's really healthy. 1 person goes to a hospital, they're really healthy, but there are 5 really unhealthy people that are about to die. The doctor thinks, okay, well, this person's really healthy, we can just harvest this person's organs and give the required organs to each of the 5 people and save the 5 people. Utilitarianism, right? You save 5 people in the expense of 1 person. It's sort of the same, but it's not. The situation is completely different. The context is different. And you can't really argue utilitarianism compared to the trolley problem. So in ethics, context matters a lot. And what Asman does is he says, okay, what about in this situation? What if, what's the thing he said? So if you kill a CEO of a healthcare company, then does that mean if you don't like the people in church, you can just start shooting up a church? That's not. As a universalist, maybe, but even as a universalist, that's kind of really reaching, I feel. But anyways, going back to my point, finish the interjection, and going back to the point of, okay, was it murder, mass murder, right? So it seems right. But then there is, I brought Asmongold because there's some credence to what he says, in the sense that, okay, but so you think, right, it's justified, right, that Mangione murdered the CEO. But then if we think like that, the situation is a lot of people have their justified reasons to murder. And if you approve of Mangione's murder, who's to say that other people will start murdering because their own understanding of ethics and justice? Isn't that wrong? And I think there's a point there, right? Because it brings about the reason we have a justice system in the first place, and we have a governing system, so that people don't just act on their own, because no one has a universal, no one agrees to a universal ethical system without laws, to be honest. Where we all still have that relative difference, and of course there's contractualism that sort of, even without governing system, people can come to an agreement. But then at the same time, a law, the governing system is sort of like contractualism on a larger scale. So in essence, it's kind of the same. So then the argument here is, okay, murder bad, mass murder bad, but mass murder should have gone through a proper legal justice system instead of being murdered by some random citizen, because that turns the whole ethical framework we try to live in, where not a single person can just simply be a judge, jury, executioner according to their own ethics. Fair enough. But then the argument here is that, okay, a lot of people would agree, people want the system, right, to bring justice to these people who are essentially mass murderers. But when they have a lot of money, when they have a lot of power, and the government's controlled by those in power, would not bring this justice and will maintain the status quo, which is, for example, a healthcare CEO exploiting the poor, the weak, getting money out of them and letting them die. And so that's why, out of a symptom of desperation of the populace, Mangione shot the CEO. Right. So then, and then I come to a full stop, which I don't want to, because I still don't really want to condone the murder, right? Because it's still murder. I mean, I don't like saying I mean, but to begin with, I don't even agree with capital punishment. So then I'm also sort of in a different box to a lot of people, right? Because a lot of people think capital punishment should be a thing, or murder should be a form of justice. In an ideal world, a mass murderer still should live life in prison. But then you could argue that I just haven't had a personal experience of having to deal with a mass murderer, or having to deal with an actual murderer, like someone murdering my family or friends or whatever. So I don't have that empathy or understanding of what it's like to be a victim. So that's why it's easy for me to say, there should not be a capital punishment. So it is a good question. But at the end of the day, ideally, the system, well, if you really trace it back, well, I'm going to trace it back. Ideally, health care shouldn't need insurance. It should be cheap in an ideal world. It should be cheap, but it isn't, because a lot of, I would assume, hospital service, like being a doctor, surgeon, etc., requires a lot of expertise and work and cost that leads to a hike in price, right? Or maybe there is a high demand for labor. I mean, high supply for labor, I think. So, but then, at least from someone who has dipped their toes a little in the environment of biotech and pharma, what I understand is a lot of these are expensive. Well, a lot of pharmaceuticals and therapeutics are expensive. One, because the CEO or the tops, they really profit a large margin, you know. But Well, I think that's a problem. But then the other problem is that when it comes to therapeutics, a lot of them don't get to the level of being a good commercial product. A lot of time they have to go through this tenuous process, preclinical, clinical, phase 2, phase 1 to 3, and then they sell on the market, and then there's like another trial to research. It's like market the health of the product in the market, and there's also the idea of like it's in the market but it just doesn't work out, and there's a lot of walls, obstacles that a new drug has to go through to even get to becoming a product used in a hospital or at a pharmacy or whatever. And each product in of itself could be expensive to produce based on materials, and the capital it requires to produce it, like the machines will, and labor, right? And also you need specific equipment and specific locations as well. That's a cost. And there's the whole risk of, it doesn't reach it. So that means when you need to make new pharmaceuticals, biotech products, you need investors. And the investing is sort of risky, right? Because of all these problems. So especially in maybe not necessarily angel or seed, even seed maybe, but especially Series A, B, etc. These investors are gonna be investing in something with high risk, so the return has to be high. So I would assume there's also an additional hike of the price or influence of the hike of the price, I would assume. Actually, I don't really know how high risk, high reward investment leads to higher price. Maybe the dividends they pay to the investors, that's expensive, so that's why the price of the product have to be expensive. I'm not sure actually, but I'm assuming when investors invest in something with high risk and high reward, and they're gonna get rewarded, that product has to be expensive to a certain extent. So all in all, medicine, healthcare becomes expensive. You just have to wait for economies of scale, or until the IP, not necessarily IP, but I guess the IP runs out, or the ownership of the drug runs out, and I would assume it gets a little cheaper. Right. And even without investors, for even biotechs, the reward, it is risky, so reward has to be high to incentivize new medicine to be put out, right? New therapeutics to be put out. And therefore, even there, it would increase the price. And then there's just the overall greed of CEOs and big pharma that hike up the price a lot. If that could be fixed, I think things will already be different, but I don't think that's going to get fixed. So we have to find a different solution. And this is a long solution, and this is a solution that is not Asmund's argument of, oh, we just have to allow democracy to work its way through. That's not going to work. That has not worked for years. As someone who is pro-technology, pro-innovation, what I argue is we have to fight at the root cause, and to fight the root cause, it's innovation. We have to find new ways to revolutionize this process, which is risk. Risk, layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of risks to just produce these pharmaceutical products. We have to, not just pharmaceutical products, but also the labor, the skills, the technique for doctors and high-skilled physicians, like surgeons and all that. I think we have to figure out a way to reduce the risk of getting there, getting it out there, getting there. If we can fix that, then things would have a better outlook. I think that, and then it has to be known by the public that things are a lot easier to produce and cheaper, and there's less risks, so that those who sell cannot hide this information and still maintain a high price. But just the R&D and education, learning, training, all that is just too high. So maybe we have to somehow reduce that part. Reducing that part might reduce supply for that labor, though. That's the issue, when it's a very essential part of society. People who can actually heal sick patients. That's the conundrum, right? Although, this is why, again, I'm kind of pro AI, because AI can replace labor, and AI can help accelerate certain developments, like, for example, de novo generation, where there's gazillions different forms of chemical structures to find new drugs that bind to a specific receptor, right? But what AI allows is, it, instead of having to, for humans to sift through what number of combinations close to, or is more than the number of stars in the universe or something, what AI can somehow do is it gives you a new chemical structure that says this will work on this receptor, and you can go, okay, and then just go into the preclinical stage, because there's also that stage of trying to figure out everything before you can even get to preclinical. So AI can help with that. AI helps with AlphaFold. Now you have a better understanding of 3D structure. So AI can help you with just better understanding of something. So that can help. And I think if we can start automating a lot of hospital care, hospital services. That takes away a lot of, I would assume, or at least what makes me not want to be someone working in a hospital is because of the harsh environment. Like ER, I just can't imagine. Imagine if ER was mostly automated. How much better that would be. I'm not saying completely take away human labor, but it would be better for the people actually working there, right? If things were less, more accurate, reduce proneness of accidents, and if it's automated AI, it doesn't need to have the risk of getting tired, anxious, etc. And then what I've heard about is 3D printing pharmaceuticals. That's cool. That goes into personalized medicine, but that also reduces a lot of the cost of the production in the medicine. So at the end of the day, I think that's what we just have to focus on. In the meantime, maybe there'll be more assassinations, which might help change the system, but I highly doubt there'll be more assassinations, and I highly doubt the system will do anything about it anyways. We have to play the system. We have to play capitalism. Capitalism loves innovation. Okay, let's jerk off the AIs. Let's jerk off automation, personalization, 3D printing, whatever's out there, to reduce the cost of production, which in turn would reduce the risk of producing, and also time, right? We have to find ways to make things more efficient. AI, I just remembered about this AI presentation where the future of research is people are just all on computers because you can do virtual trials. I think there's something there. I feel a bit wary if we only rely on virtual trials, right? Because I just don't believe something virtual can completely replicate an actual trial. But a virtual trial could potentially reduce cost in certain aspects of the phase of developing a drug. But also 3D printing and AI and all that could mean being able to personalize capital as well, right? Certain machinery. So that would reduce the cost as well. So it really comes to that at the end of the day. Because if we can't really fix the greed, at least what we can do is reduce the risk and cost of production. Maybe I'm still being optimistic, I don't know. But that's where I would say is what we can fix. Honestly, I want to be part of that people that would be able to fix that. I don't know how to, because I can't even get a job in biotech to begin with, or pharma biotech. I really want to. I really want to at least be in a, I don't know, I say I want to be in a lab setting, but I do like, because I experienced it a little bit, I do like just doing the actual research, you know. I think that's really cool. But I do also want to see the bigger picture and be part of a bigger picture. I mean, that's why ideally I do have a sort of BD role lined up in February. So what I really want is, okay, the BD role, that's like 10 hours a week. I do it on the side. And it's in the evening anyways. Because it's the company's trying to outreach to US and I'm in European time. So I do BD at US time. Okay. Well, that's going on. I want to do a 9 to 5. I don't mind doing a 9 to 5 for now. In an actual facility, lab, doing pharmaceuticals, therapeutics, some sort of biotech, whatever. CRO, or specific company. I really want to do something with RNA. That's really fascinating. I think RNA is, well, I don't know if RNA is, I mean, RNA is kind of the future, right? It's the new form of therapeutics that people are researching. And I sometimes feel RNA is a little, there's not enough love for RNA, especially non-coding, just because people don't know too much about it or started to know about it recently. So I really want to go there because I did do research on if I can do a RNA specific masters, and they didn't really have that anywhere. At least the good universities I searched. Good universities, like what, 20, 30 universities around the world. I did not find RNA specific masters. So, I mean, that's what I would do, but that's fine. But I found companies that deal with RNA, so that's what I'll do. But at the end of the day, I do want to see the bigger picture, right? Which is reducing the cost of production, reducing the risk of production. If I could be someone that could fix that, maybe there wouldn't have to be a need for shooting more CEOs. Because at the end of the day, I still think in an ideal world, a lot of people don't want to see a civilian killing another civilian on the street. Maybe that's reductionist to describe it as that, right? Oh, I just don't want to see murder. And I don't want to see a CEO having CEO I don't want to word it like this, but sort of, I don't want to see a situation where CEO has to exploit civilians in that way. Ideally, okay, CEOs will still exploit, but the people still get their healthcare. That would be my ideal world. Exploiters are not going to go away, but at least somehow the poor and the weak still get help. Enough help. There's still going to be poor and the weak. I think there will always be poor and the weak. But maybe we could also shift the standard of what's poor and the weak. Where in 100 years from now, or no, 100 years from before that, the people from 100 years ago would say, wow, that's still privilege. That would be the ideal world. But I dream. And that's it. I think that's where I will leave it. And then at the end of the day, so the discourse of ethics, right? Is Luigi Mangione, is his actions ethical? It's complicated. Right. No one should be judge, jury, executioner. But in a world where the judge, jury, executioner is not following is not really, the democracy of the judge, jury, executioner is sort of an illusion that maintains the exploitation for the 1%, for the powerful. It makes this whole situation kind of difficult for anyone. And therefore, we have to bring about innovation so that the weak and the poor don't have to die due to exploitation, or don't have to suffer as much due to exploitation. And that's my 2 cents.